Hello, everyone. Cindy, it looks like we have all the board members.
Yes, I show them all logged in.
Okay. And is everyone from city staff ready to go?
Yes, I just don't see JJ in, but he may be joining us later.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like we've got a special substitute tagged in for legal counsel.
Good to see everybody again.
Good to see you, Ms. McDevitt. Welcome back. Thanks for covering. Looks like we're recording, so I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the City of Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment special video meeting for May 20th, 2021. The meeting's disconnected at any time. The meeting will be stopped and reconvened once the connection is restored. The connection is not able to be restored within 30 minutes. Items remaining for consideration will be continued to the next regularly scheduled Board of Adjustment meeting. The agenda documents, minutes, the agenda documents and minutes are located at okc.primegov.com/public/portal. For anyone wishing to speak today, hopefully you've previously notified staff by phone or email, and we'll call on you to speak at the appropriate time. We will call the case, then I'll recognize the applicant or applicant's representative to speak. Then I'll recognize any supporters, then any protests, and then we will close with the applicant speaking. Public comment will then be closed unless specifically reopened by me or another board member. The board will then deliberate and then vote. If you've not prearranged to speak with city staff on an item, I will regularly ask if anyone else would like to be heard on the matter. If you would like to speak and you have not previously signed up, please use the raise your hand function on Zoom while the matter is being considered. The board and staff will be notified that you've raised your hand. And just note that if you've already prearranged to speak with city staff, you do not need to use the raise your hand function unless for some reason you are not on one of our speaking lists. For speakers other than the applicant, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you call in after your item has been heard, or if you have a different matter to raise with the board, you'll be allowed to speak under citizens to be heard portion of the agenda. I ask that all participants keep their sound on mute until they are recognized to speak. If you're on a phone, press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Board members will be allowed to ask questions and make comments at any time during the meeting. Please do not interrupt board members while they are speaking because we need a clear record and it makes the meetings go by much faster. Before you begin with your comments, please identify yourself by name and address. And this meeting is called to order. Ms. Lakin, can you call the roll, please?
Member Merchant.
Present.
Member Asbury.
Present.
Member Privet.
Present.
Member Voorhees.
Present.
Member Ybarra.
Present.
Okay, Chairman, we have our quorum.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is to receive the minutes from the May 6, 2021 meeting. Board members, do we have any changes or a motion?
I'll move that we approve the minutes of the May 6th meeting.
Second.
Okay. I saw the meeting go full screen, so if you could hit escape if you haven't done so already. We've got a motion and a second to receive the minutes from the May 6, 2021 meeting. Once you're able to, cast your votes.
Mr. Voorhees, are you able to vote?
I don't see, but yes, I vote yes.
And the minutes are approved. And we'll go by voice vote. Mr. Voorhees, if there's an issue, and then once that gets sorted out, hopefully the voting pane will show up in the future. The next item we'll move to is the consent docket. And seeing nothing on the consent docket, we'll move to items requiring, well, actually first we'll see if there are any continuous requests and withdrawals. And I see one withdrawal request. Cindy, is that correct, or is there any updates to that?
That's correct. Item number 11, case number 14851, request to withdraw.
Okay, and we don't need a motion to that, so we'll move on to items requiring a separate vote.
Okay, we have item number 1, case number 14846, request of Robert Smith for a variance to setback regulations located at 12601 Southwest 25th Street, and I see the applicant on the line.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Mr. Smith, just for the purposes of the record, can you just go ahead and introduce yourself by name and address?
Sure. Good afternoon. I am Robert Smith. Address is 12601 Southwest 25th Street.
Okay, and it looks like you've amended this application to encroach 15 feet instead of, I think, 20 feet as originally drafted. So if you just want to talk about those amendments in general, and then the board can ask questions if they have any questions.
Sure. In my original application, I mistakenly thought that the side yard setback was 10 feet. And I found out during the call that it's 25. My apologies for that. But anyway, as you can see, my lot is pie-shaped and it's very narrow in the front and widens out to the back. But the house this house is 5 years old, and my wife and I bought it earlier this year. The house is parallel to the side yard, which is where the building's going to be. And in order to put a metal storage building back there and to keep it from blocking the view out the back of our house, that's our master bedrooms on that side. We have a double window there, and I just don't want to block that view. So if you can grant me this variance and move the setback requirement to 10 feet, I can make the building a little bit smaller and still accomplish my goal. And that's basically it in a nutshell. And one more comment: the back of the lot, there's a 20-foot utility easement. And because the lot's so narrow, they had to push the house back in the lot. So there's not a whole lot of room to go back either. So I'm kind of hamstrung a bit in where I can put that building, again, to keep it from blocking the view of the back of our house. So that is it in a nutshell.
Okay. I appreciate you revising that application. We always try to hit we're required to hit all the elements that the statute requires, including that it's the minimum necessary to alleviate the hardship. Looking at this aerial, it looks like the property adjacent to you, I guess, probably to the south there, given your renderings, I don't think that there'd be anything even close to that on the adjacent properties. And so I think that tips in your favor, including even their view. Doesn't look like it would really infringe on their view. And it wouldn't get close to any other accessory buildings that they have or any of the adjacent properties. So I think that is in your favor. Again, I think you've minimized the extent of the variance to the highest level that you could. But those are my kind of thoughts. Board members, any questions or comments?
We didn't have any protests on this one, did we?
I did not have anyone sign up for it. We'll take a second here to open it up. Is there anyone on the line that wanted to speak on this application other than the applicant? Seeing none, board members, questions, comments, or motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the variance request in case number 14846 as revised by the applicant for the reason that it meets the statutory conditions for a variance. Cast your votes, please. And it's approved.
That is awesome. I sure appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 2, case number 14848, request of Grubbs Consulting on behalf of Mayfair HPR LLC for a variance to permit existing and new private improvements such as parking spaces, maneuvering, lighting, signs in the street right away in the Mayfair Shopping Center between Northwest 47th and Northwest 50th off of May Avenue. And David Box and Mr. Grubbs are on the line.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. Cindy, if you could display the exhibit, you'll recall this was on the the docket last hearing, there weren't statutory conditions attached to your packet. So we had just been hired. We have gone in and had Mr. Grubbs create this exhibit to kind of walk us through it because it is fairly complicated. But I think this exhibit will make our inquiry a bit easier. So this is the Mayfair Shopping Center located at 50th and May. The development of this project started in 1948, completed sometime in the late 50s. Almost everything we are seeking today has been in existence in the same condition since 1958. So what that includes is some parking, some buildings, some signage. I hope you have an exhibit in front of you, or perhaps you can zoom in, but everything you see in a red box is meant to indicate existing improvements, whether that be parking or a maneuvering section or building encroachment. The 4 things you see in blue are proposed new. Those are 4 monument signs that will be consistent with existing monument signs that are likewise in the right of way. So one of the issues we face is, the strict application of the ordinance would create a hardship in that it would reduce parking counts, make us out of compliance with the code provisions for parking, but also, and more importantly, we have multiple leases that have existed for many years that my client is now in the position of landlord. And there are very specific parking requirements that exist within those leases. So not only would we be out of compliance with municipal code, we would also be out of compliance with various lease provisions as it relates to minimum parking requirements for those specific tenants. It's unique in that this has been here for, like I said, since the 50s in this exact same configuration. I don't think that there would be a detriment or an impairment of the purposes of the comprehensive plan in that, again, this has been a successful retail operation for quite some time in this part of the city, and this will just allow the status quo to continue. The reason we're asking for the 4 new signs is that we are anticipating some new tenants. And of course, to be consistent with the uniformity of where the other signs are located, we would ask to have the new signs located in a similar manner so that they weren't staggered as you worked your way up and down May Avenue. And it's the least necessary in that all other code provisions will be met. And again, to not get this variance would trigger the need for other variances as it relates to parking requirements. So this will allow parking, maneuvering. There is anticipated to be a fast food restaurant, so the maneuvering through the fast food window will also be in here. We've worked with staff to ensure that they're comfortable with everything that this exhibit reflects and what we're asking for. So we think that this meets the statutory conditions. I believe staff had no unfavorable, but they did have a comment about the variance should not restrict the installation of a sidewalk if required for new construction or a street improvement project. So it's worth noting, if you look at 47th Street, Cindy, if you have an aerial, let's see that. There was a bond project that came through here, I'm going to say 5 to 7 years ago, to install sidewalks up and down May Avenue. And it's worth noting that at 47th Street, the sidewalk was on the east side of May, and because of the improvements that have been in place for so long with my client's property, the sidewalk actually transitioned to the west side of May and continued up the west side of May and then crossing Northwest 50th. So although it is very unlikely that there would be another bond project that would seek to install sidewalks in this area, my client is willing to stipulate that if a bond project were to come through seeking to install a sidewalk, we would work with the city. I just find that almost impossible, but based upon the comment, if there was a bond project, we're happy to work with the city on that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. As Cindy indicated, Mark Grubbs, the civil engineer, is also on the line to help address any questions the board might have.
Okay. I appreciate the more information on this one. It's clearer to me now with what's going on and the exact.
And in fact, Mr. Chair, to that end, I hope in your staff report you saw, I tried to break it down just because there's so much going on into each parcel, what it is we're seeking, both new and existing, to just try to provide a roadmap of what it is this application seeks.
Yeah, I saw that, and it's helpful. The one issue. I don't know that it's going to set anything back, but the exhibit with the labels that we looked at first,
Yes, sir.
my exhibit, and that's helpful to see what kind of what's going on as a pictorial, but my exhibit only has 2 new proposed signs in it. So I don't know if we got an initial draft or what. I saw the one that you're referencing had 4. So
Yeah. So the application and the text is correct. You'll note in the parcel by parcel breakdown in your staff report, we show the 4 requested new monument signs. Mr. Grubbs produced that exhibit early on, like right after last week's hearing. And so it just didn't capture it. We have since amended that, which is why you see the discrepancy. But the text of what we sought did encapsulate the 4 new signs.
right, and I think that satisfies me as far as needing notice or anything like that. I don't think we're going to need to renotice because it is in the text. It just wasn't in that exhibit, which is fine. But I just wanted to point that out. The proposed new monument signs, I assume since there's not a variance request in here for the size or the number or anything like that, that it's going to comply with any of the size requirements or numerosity requirements. And it's just, you need a variance to put it in the right of way. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's really to allow the uniformity of the signage based upon where existing signs are. But yeah, we will conform with zoning regulations as to size, height, separation, and all those things.
Okay. Board members, questions or comments?
Yeah, real quickly, there was 2 other departments that had some concerns that was stated within this application. David, can you talk about those, please?
Sure. Tell me.
It was utilities and I think public works or something like that.
Yeah. So what utilities is saying is that perhaps we will need some revocable permits.
Mhm.
Anything that we need a revocable for, we will go and get. Things like parking or improvements that are in or over right of way will require a revocable. That is an administrative process that we will have to go through. And so we will coordinate with utility department as it relates to that. The public works and paving, that's kind of gets to it's listed under unfavorable number 2. But we cannot meet the ADA standards. But if there's a public improvement project like a bond project that decided they now wanted to put the sidewalk on the east side, we'll certainly work with them in that regard. But again, I find it almost impossible considering the last time a bond project came through, they specifically shifted sides of the street to avoid the large center on the east side of May.
Okay, thank you, David.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, David, does your client intend on updating the existing signs anyway, or just leaving them as they are?
Well, I mean, they will update them in that as they get new tenants. My client has acquired this property with the intent of bringing life back to it, putting some money in it, trying to upgrade the type of tenants that they have there, and just generally kind of beautify the buildings. This came up obviously through their due diligence and their title report efforts that all of these encroachments existed. Our first thought was, well, surely there's going to be some sort of paper trail at the city showing the variances were granted when they built this, considering, again, this project started in 1948, but we weren't able to find anything.
And I think you've stated this, and it's pretty clear in the application, but just to get it on the record, there's not going to be any changes to any of the structures as far as adding or enlarging any of the structures or anything like that as a result of this application. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, there could be some changes to the structures. I mean, not as a result of the application, but some of the structures may change. Some of them may go away. But anything that goes away or new one that comes will be within the boundaries of what we're seeking here today.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. If this were granted, just to grant it on the application as drafted, which I think it's kind of a tacit condition in most applications, but I just wanted to make that clear on the record that it would be as drafted in the application, and we wouldn't be granting some, setback variance, and then now there's no setback you have to worry about, and you can build some huge thing over there. So
Yeah, no. Yeah, so we're not seeking any setback variance.
well, it'd be to maintain the existing building setbacks, which my understanding is they're not currently in compliance. So it would be in a sense a variance, but it's just to bring it up to code.
Yeah, there could be cosmetic changes and things like that, but it's really just to keep the status quo, except for the 4 sign issue.
That was one of my concerns too, because David, when you mentioned it, there's a possibility of a fast food restaurant coming in there. So I was wondering how that would affect that. Would it be on the north end or the south end of that parking lot? Because then you're going to have some kind of modifications for people to get in and out if it's a drive-through fast food restaurant.
So that would be in parcel 3, which is that kind of southwest parcel. The maneuvering within the right of way would cover that. So it's really no different than what exists there now. It's just it would be the same rather than maneuvering from a parking stall. They're maneuvering next to a fast food window. But we're not seeking a variance as it relates to setback or anything like that. So it would be within the confines of the municipal code as it relates to fast food drive-through and any of those other things. I was just trying to be as transparent as possible that they're, in addition to pumping some money in, that they're hoping to get some different tenants in there. So this will
thank you very much.
Operate in the same manner that it has always operated.
yeah, I think a fast food restaurant in parcel 3 is a not as quite the same concern as if you stuck it into 7 or something. So
sure,
yeah, for sure.
Okay. I don't have anyone else signed up to speak unless maybe Mr. Grubbs had anything to add, but is there anyone else on the line that was hoping to speak on this application?
This is Mark Grubbs, 1800 South Sail Road. On parcel 3, just to clarify and for the record, there is the portion of the building that encroaches into the setback of 47th Street has actually it's currently in the process of renovation. It has actually been removed, and they are where that building comes out to the north into that setback. They're actually putting an outdoor patio for seating, but it will not encroach any further than the existing building. It actually sets back a little bit further. So I just wanted to, since you were asking about that, I just wanted to make sure that was on the record. It's the only thing I have to add.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking at that now, and that seems like it's even more helpful for the application. So, board members, questions, comments, or a motion?
Any protests on this one? I didn't have any in the packet.
I
None
didn't.
that I've been made aware of.
Yeah, I didn't see any.
I'll move approval.
Okay, and then I think for the motion, and for the approval, I think it would be subject to, as drafted and presented in the application, only, and then the comments from other agencies, incorporating those into the variance.
Correct.
I'll second that, Mike.
And Ms. McDevitt, for your purposes, are you satisfied?
Yes, that's good. And one thing I would add, though, is that it seems like there might be an issue with PrimeGov, and we need to make sure that all 5 votes are displayed. So if it's not consistently displaying, we'll need to do a voice vote.
Okay. Well, we'll try it out. We've got a motion and a second to approve the all the variance requests in case number 14848. The reasons that they meet the statutory conditions for variances, subject to incorporating the comments from the public agencies, and the variances being conditioned on the application as drafted. Once you're able to, cast your votes.
Mr. Voorhees,
I vote yes, but I don't have a panel to click.
Okay, and the application's approved.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 3, case number 14852, request of David Box on behalf of Shaz Investment Group for a variance to the rear yard setback in the R4 General Residential District at 19601 North Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, once again, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant, who is the owner and developer of this project. So this particular application is needed because of a pipeline that bisects the property. It is worth noting that the site is zoned R4, but rather than developing it pursuant to R4, which would be apartments and up to 35 dwelling units per acre, my client's actually developing this as duplex lots. And so because of that, the way that the pipeline bisects the property, the lots had to shift up to the north. And so it requires us to get within that 15-foot rear yard setback. But I do want to address there's a comment from utilities that say no encroachment into the 15-foot utility easement that contains sewer. We agree with that. There actually is no 15-foot utility easement on this side. This is Los Sonatas Section 7. Los Sonatas Section 6 is immediately to the north, and in that section to the north is where the 15-foot UE actually is and where the sewer line is. On our site, there is a 5-foot UE at the northern boundary of the tract, and we will, of course, be off of that and not encroach into that. But because of this pipeline, it requires us to shift it to the north. Our hope is that this still ends up being a better product for the neighbors who bought, no doubt seeing that next to them could be an apartment complex. And now we're significantly reducing the density to a duplex lot. So all other code provisions which will be met. There is an unfavorable consideration that I'm not sure I understand. It says a residential neighborhood lies to the north. That's an unfavorable I might expect to see if this is a commercial application. Residential residential I don't view as an incompatible use. We're just slightly into the 15-foot rear yard setback. So we believe that the ordinance would create a hardship and that it would remove an entire piece of the development. The uniqueness is that there is this pipeline that bisects the property. The purposes and intent of the comprehensive plan, we don't think will be impaired. Rather, we think by going to duplex rather than apartments, we actually are increasing the compatibility of the two developments. And again, it's the least necessary because we don't need any other variances. We will comply with all of the code provisions. So I'm not aware of any protest that has been submitted on this one. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So I'm sure you did say this while I was looking at the property just to get another image of it, but can you describe where exactly what you're trying to avoid here, this 15-foot utility easement, where that is?
Yeah, so it is, be a lot easier if I was in City Hall and had an exhibit in front of me.
Yeah.
So it's slightly north of Middle, if that helps. So it's forcing us to move everything north to stay off of that, which is why the lots have to shift north and into that 15-foot rear yard setback.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
How far into the setback? What's the variance we're needing?
5 feet. We can have a 10-foot setback. It's just 15 doesn't work.
Okay. That was and I heard you say that you wouldn't be taking the full amount, which made me feel better, but that was my issue, was we're going to abut the property line and have no variance or no setback, but 10 feet makes sense.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Have any of these residential, other kind of abutting property owners been in communication with you at all?
They were years ago. We had quite a bit of protest on another piece of this development. They haven't been involved through this application. Again, my guess is because it was talked about at such length in our previous dealings with these folks that they will view this as a favorable change from what could otherwise be built on this piece of property.
Okay. Board members, any questions or comments?
How many units, David?
I don't know. We'll have to go plat it. It's a fairly small tract, but I don't have the exact unit count.
There can't be many with the way the pipeline goes.
That's right. They just, before they spend a whole bunch of money with engineering, they needed to seek this before they, spent money in design with engineering laying it out.
I got you.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd put an apartment complex there with that 15-foot, but
Well, if you look to the south in the aerial, there's an existing apartment project. And so one of the thoughts was that this becomes an expansion of the large apartment complex to the south.
okay. I don't have anyone else signed up to speak, but is there anyone on the line that was hoping to speak on this application? Okay. Hearing none, board members, questions, comments, or a motion? And I think it would be a 10-foot variance, just to be clear. Or I guess a 5-foot variance and a 10-foot easement, or a 10-foot setback.
A rear yard setback.
Mhm.
Anyone signed up to speak?
No, I didn't have anyone signed up, and no one just raised their hand whenever I opened it up. So I think we're ready to have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 14852 for the reasons that it meets the statutory requirements for variance. And the total of a 5-foot variance to make it a 10-foot rear yard setback.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve a 5-foot variance in case number 14852 for the reason that it meets the statutory conditions for variance. Once you're able to, cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, case number 14855, request of Terry Hollis for a variance to the accessory building regulations in the RA Rural Agricultural District located at 10620 Katy Line Drive. And I see Mr. Hollis on the line.
How you doing today? This is the first time I've ever done Zoom, so bear with me. My name is Tony Hollis, not Terry. Tony Hollis at 10620 Katy Line Drive. And I'm seeking to put in a 30 by 50 by 12 shop directly behind my home. And the reason why I'm wanting to put this shop in is a couple reasons. One reason being that my backyard backs up to Morgan Road and the on-ramp going south, Kilpatrick Turnpike, and the turnpike is directly behind me. Very, very noisy, and I'm trying to get something for a sound barrier. And I figured if I went and put a shop in, that would be a good sound barrier. And also I have approximately 6 classic cars that I'm going to store in there. So the variance is for like approximately 754 square feet. I do have an existing shop on here. When I bought the house, the shop is a 21 by 24. And I rent out of the room for my classic cars, and also the shop would also be that sound barrier that I'm looking for the noise.
Okay, I'm just trying to confirm here what that is. What's that property in between you and the turnpike? I assume that's state property.
That's Morgan Road, and my property backs right up to Morgan Road.
Okay, and what about that between Morgan and the turnpike?
That's just, I don't know whose property that is, if that's an individual's property or if it's turnpike's property.
Yeah, I assume the turnpike probably owns it, or the state or something. But, yeah, I think the fact that you back up to Morgan and then it doesn't look like it's going to be developed past that until you get to the turnpike, I think that tips in your favor and makes this a little bit unique of an application. Board members, any questions or comments of the applicant?
Seems kind of big, but
I would normally say that if there was anything that was over there to the east of him. But since there's nothing there, I mean, and there's not anything there for a while, even past the turnpike. So I think that helps his application. Not that you can just build as big as you want, but I think that helps your application here.
and most of us are going to be behind the house.
Yes, sir. It'll be directly behind the house. There will be no, if you drive in front of my house, you won't be able to see the shop because of my house will be blocking that view.
Will you let the board members drive those classic cars?
Well, we'll talk about that. I need to see your driving records.
Yeah, understandable. I don't have anyone else signed up to speak on this, so we'll open it up for a few minutes to see if anyone else wanted to speak on this application. Go ahead and use the raise your hand function at this time. Okay. Seeing none, board members, questions, comments, or motion?
I think classic cars need a good home, so I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Thank you.
A motion and a second to approve the variance request in case number 14855 for the reason that it meets the statutory conditions for a variance. Once we're able to, cast your votes.
Monica, can you see the second?
No, it says waiting.
Yeah, something went wonky. It was up, then it disappeared.
There we go. I see the motion in the second now. Just got the voting pane on my screen. And it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're to item number 5, case number 14862, request of Lowry Homes for a variance to accessory building regulations in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 11319 North County Line Road. And I see the applicant on the line.
Okay, Mr. Holmes, if you want to introduce yourself and by name and address and present your application. Oh, I think you're on mute. I tried to unmute you, but it on my screen says you're unmuted, but we're not hearing you. So I think I might hear something that might be faint, just really quiet. Well, Cindy, were you able to hear the applicant?
No, sir. I just see him smiling.
Yeah, Mr. Holmes, you might try to back out of this meeting and rejoin again. And when it comes up, it'll ask you to use computer audio and make sure you click that. That's if you can.
Okay, well, we'll move this application. We'll skip this one and come right back to it after the next one instead of putting it at the end. So we'll skip this and give Mr. Holmes time to back out of the meeting and then rejoin, and then hopefully it'll work at that point. But Cindy, if you wanted to move to the next one for now.
Okay, item number 6, case number 14854, application for a special exception of Vitrovia's properties to allow home sharing in the R1 located at 1510 Northwest 19th Street.
Hello, my name is Austin Tennell, and I'm the manager of Vitruvia's Properties, and I'm a small builder. And we've got a couple rental properties, so we remodeled this in Gatewood. It's a duplex, and we are wanting to Airbnb it. There's a duplex both to the east and to the west side of the property, and this is all within walking distance to Plaza. It's a 7-minute walk to the Mule, so really prime location for Airbnb. And as you can see, the driveway, even though it's a duplex, it's got two, you can actually fit 4 cars in there, so 2 for each side, and each unit sleeps up to 6 people max is what we are requesting. And so right now on this one, this is for the right side, the 1510 Northwest 19th.
Okay, and then I think the next application is yours also for the other side of that duplex. Is that correct?
It looks like it skips one and it goes.
Item number 10.
Yeah, item number 10 is the other side of it.
Okay.
Did you want me to read that one in?
I think we'll go ahead and take a vote on this one, and then we'll just stick with this applicant and then start it fresh.
Okay.
Read the other application right after this, so kind of move the agenda around a little bit. But so 2 bedrooms, and we'll go ahead and talk about these together, even though we vote on them separately. 2 bedrooms each, 6 people each, and then there's adequate off-street parking. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yep. 2 spots per unit.
Okay. Would there be any problem advertising this as off-street parking only?
No, not at all. Yeah, we haven't had, I can't imagine with 6 people, having more than 2 cars each, because most people, it's really with 2 bedrooms, you know what I mean? It's really more like 4 people, and if they have kids or something, it can sleep. There's a little bunk bed, that can sleep an extra 2 people. So it's really meant for 4 adults. So.
Okay. I think the board gets a little concerned with, we're just keeping an eye on home sharing to make sure that home sharing doesn't kind of overtake a neighborhood. This one to me, I guess, seems sort of like the consideration might be that we consider the whole house together. And so it'd be one large home sharing opportunity, even though it's split up into a duplex. And that, I think, helps you a little bit. But I don't know how the board feels about it, but we're just keeping an eye on home sharing in certain districts, and particularly the plaza, because it's a growing area and very popular area, and we want to make sure it keeps that neighborhood feel, and not kind of a bunch of home sharing. Not that prevents your application or anything, but I think it would probably tend toward granting a little bit shorter special exception, just in these kind of areas, just to see how they develop. And city council changes their how they deal with home sharing over the next kind of couple of years. But those are just my initial thoughts that are kind of particular to this area. But board members, questions or comments of the applicant?
This is Kitty. I do want to ask a question real quickly, since you said this case and case number 10 are basically by the same owner. Are we talking about one duplex or 2 separate duplexes?
One duplex.
Okay. So we can't look at it as one place, though? Is that what you're saying, Chairman?
It's got 2 addresses, and duplexes have been dealt with separately, needing a special exception for each unit, which I think is appropriate. But yeah, so it's just for that one unit.
Okay.
The one unit for this application, and then the next application is for the other side of the duplex.
Okay, got you.
Mr. Tennell, I had a question for you. Are you doing this home sharing while you try to rent these out long-term, or is this your long-term plan for these properties, is to just have them be short-term?
Honestly, it's my long-term plan, because it's hard to remodel a house well with the amount of money involved and get enough money out of it with just a long-term lease to pay for the mortgage. So for example, we took that down for $125,000. It was a complete gut. All laugh and plaster everything so there's $300,000 in it, and just renting each side out is, I know I don't have a home sharing license, so obviously I'm kind of taking my own risk, and that's not up to you, that's up to me. But yeah, long-term rentals just don't cover it for the first, I'd really have to probably Airbnb for 4 years to kind of pay down the note enough to be able to actually make sense for long-term lease. And the other thing I would say about this street and this neighborhood, all of them to the east and west, and it looks like on the other side too, are basically rentals right now. And like I said, there's duplexes. The ones you see in the picture are the duplexes to the east and west. So it's not like it's a bunch of single family houses with permanent residents. I've had several new renters come in and out, it seems like, just while I was remodeling it. And part of that's because it's so close to the plaza, you actually get plaza traffic, you know, like parking on the street and stuff. So it's not like, what attracted me to it as an Airbnb is it's not a super like family feeling neighborhood. This part, it feels kind of, because it's so close to plaza, it feels kind of like a more transient part of the area. Personally, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there, and 19th is going to get quite a bit of that plaza traffic. So, you know, maybe I can see where it would be shorter term kind of uses, but at the same time, we're just kind of keeping a watchful eye on these, and so, you know, you're going to get a little bit more scrutiny from the board. And I don't know how long you were hoping to get of a special exception. To me, it seems like probably around a year for this one. And then you come back in a year if it gets approved, and we kind of reassess how everything has gone and see if we need to modify anything at that point. We can go up to 10 years. We've never granted one for 10 years. And just in these areas, we really want to keep them short so we can keep an eye on them at a regular duration. So how long are you hoping to get this application or the special exception for?
I was hoping for 5 years. I had talked to the zoning, they said they had never given 10. So I was hoping for something like 5 that kind of guarantees that I can do this for a while, but I understand where you're coming from. So. Okay. And it's up for the board to decide. And so I don't know if 1 year seems too short for the board, but for me, I'm slightly on the fence for this one anyway. I'd feel much more comfortable with one of those units going to home sharing and one of them going to a longer term tenant. And you may or may not have followed all of this at city council, but at city council, this was hotly contested. And, you know, the city was even talking about not allowing home sharing at all. And so the fact that they allowed it, to me, in pretty limited conditions, means we need to scrutinize each application pretty heavily. But that's kind of where I am. Board members, questions or comments? Okay. I didn't have.
Do we have any? Oh, I was going to say if we didn't have any protests, I'd make a motion.
Okay. I didn't have anyone signed up to speak, but we will take a second here. Is there anyone on the line that wanted to speak on this application other than the applicant? Okay, I've got one hand raised from a cell phone. So if you wanted to unmute, and if this is correct, unmute and introduce yourself by name and address and present your comments. Okay, someone with a 305 area code. We'll wait a couple more minutes. I see a hand raised, but it might be by mistake or for a different application. So we'll wait a couple more minutes, but if you want to present your comments now.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, sorry about that. My name is Greg Connor at 1505 Northwest 19th Street. I'm not in favor of this, and it's actually primarily due to parking. I think I see within the packet that the development office had, I guess, suggested that there was adequate parking, but I don't know that they considered that we are right down the street from Classen Middle School now. And the north side of 19th Street is restricted parking during the day. And so when you are looking at now doing home sharing and now forcing that parking primarily onto the street, I think that's going to create even a greater issue. And then in terms of the characterization of the neighborhood, we've been here for 10 years. Directly across from the subject property, you've got at least 4 houses that are long-term families. Directly to the east is a single person. It's my understanding that's not a home sharing, not a rental. 2 down, long-term family as well. And so I think it's not consistent with this request is not consistent with the rest of the homes and families that are in the area. But then if we were to combine item 6 and item 10 together, the amount of parking would be a major issue. So appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. On kind of on that point, I know the board's familiar with these considerations, but not everyone on the line might be familiar with these. But generally, our task here at least for parking, is to determine whether this would create more parking than an otherwise permitted use. And so I see this, and I see if it gets approved, I suspect it'll be limited to off-street parking only. So there will be no on-street parking, and it will be advertised as having off-street parking only. And 2 bedrooms under a normal use, let's say a long-term tenant, there might be 1 car or 2 cars there, which is, I think, what the home sharing special exception use would also have, 1 to 2 cars per unit. And so I don't see that it would create additional parking that's, in addition to what would already be permitted by either someone just buying the house and moving a family in there or having long-term tenants. On the character of the neighborhood, I share those concerns as well. I don't think we're quite there in this area to start rejecting applications based on that.
I'm still working with Curtis to get all this.
Mute someone real quick. But I don't know that we're quite there yet to start rejecting applications, but we're pretty close in some areas. So for this, if it were approved, I don't know that I'd be comfortable with anything over a year. I can be outvoted on that, but those are kind of my thoughts on those issues. Board members, any comments? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move approval for case number 14854 for the reasons that it meets the statutory conditions for the special exception, with the condition that this property be advertised for off-street parking only and a maximum of 6 guests.
And I didn't, you probably said it, but I didn't hear the time limit. So would it be for a year?
Yes, for a period of 1 year.
Okay, yeah, you may have said it, but I don't know. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the special exception in case number 14854 for the reason it meets the statutory conditions for special exception, subject to the condition that it'll be advertised as off-street parking only, and this will be a special exception for a period of 1 year. Once you're able to, cast your votes. Oh, and the condition, there'll be no more than 6 occupants, and it'll be advertised as such. Cast your votes, please. And that application's approved. And then Cindy, we'll move on to this applicant's next application.
Item number 10, case number 14853, application for special exception for home sharing at 1508 Northwest 19th Street.
Okay, and if the applicant, just for the purposes of the record, could go ahead and reintroduce himself by name and address and provide a quick summary of this application, although I think we all know what it generally is.
Yes, my name is Austin Tennell, manager of Vitruvius Properties, and we remodeled this duplex at 1508 Northwest 19th. And we are applying to do for a home sharing license so that we can Airbnb it. And we will advertise for off-street parking only, 2 cars maximum, and both of those fit in the driveway. And we've even got a sign on it now. So.
Okay. Board members, any questions of the applicant on this application before we open it up for comment? Okay. Is there anyone on the line that wanted to speak on this application other than the applicant? And I'll go ahead and incorporate for the purposes of the record. I know the prior speaker said that he also opposed this application, so we can incorporate that opposition into the record just so that it's there. And then if anyone had any additional comments, we'll wait a couple of seconds. Okay. Seeing none, board members, questions, comments, or a motion?
This is Kitty. I'll make a motion that we move case number 14853 for the reason that it meets the requirements for 1 year, no more than 6 guests, off-street parking, and no more than 2 cars maximum.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the special exception in case number 14853 for the reason it meets statutory conditions for a special exception, subject to the condition that it'll be advertised as having no more than 6 guests, off-street parking only, no more than 2 cars in the driveway, and the special exception will be for a period of 1 year. Once you're able to, cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Merchant, did you want to go back to item number 5?
Yes.
Item number 5, case number 14862, request of Lowry Homes for variance to the accessory building regulations at 11319 North County Line Road.
Uh-oh, I still cannot hear you. And I think for some reason I called you Mr. Holmes last time, but it's Lowry Homes LLC. So, yeah, we still cannot hear you. I don't know if you have an external microphone you can plug in, or there's an option to call in. We don't necessarily need your video, so you can call in. And Cindy, you would probably be in a better place to give instructions on that, based on what you've sent the applicant.
Yes, is he going to be using a cell phone or a landline? There's 2 different numbers.
You guys saw him just grab a cell phone.
Okay. Cell phone is 1-346-248-7799. And then you have to enter the meeting ID number, which is 912.
Well, let's hold on just 1 second.
Okay.
I think that you can hear us. So if you got the number that Cindy just sent, can you give us a thumbs up, or do you need her to? Okay, so you got the number. Give us another thumbs up whenever you've dialed, and then she'll give the meeting number. Okay. And then Cindy, looks like they're ready for the meeting number. They might already have it, but.
Okay, 912-3982-7123.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like it's Larry. Just needs to start at 6.
Am I there now?
I hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so I've muted your video feed, and now there's no echo, and I think you're good.
Okay.
What?
All right, I'm Mike Lowry with Lowry Homes. You want to hold that? And address is 9128 Northwest Expressway. And we're asking for a variance to enlarge a shop building. We're wanting a 40 by 60 building, and the code is for a 1,600 square foot building. And this one was a 2,400 square foot building. It sits behind the house. There's one to the south. There's a house to the south that's got a 3,000 square foot metal building. That was my father's, and we own this 72 acres, all of us. And we just broke out this part for my daughter.
Okay, one thing really quickly. If you could mute your computer, turn the volume down on that, and then hopefully
Is that better?
Hopefully you can still hear us through your phone if you turn the computer volume down.
There.
Yeah,
I don't know how to turn the volume down.
We're still getting echo, but it's not devastating. Not as bad as others I've heard. So we'll keep pushing through and try to get this application heard for you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Did you have any other comments about this before I open it up to the board members?
Do you have any other comments? Do I? No.
Okay. I will mute you real quick. Okay. Board members, this one for me, just given it's pretty unique in that they own all the land around there. It doesn't look to me like anything is going to be developed around there that this would really impact, but just seems like a kind of unique application to me that I can get on board with. But any comments or questions of the applicant?
I had a question, and Mr. Chairman, maybe I missed it in the application, but what is the stated hardship?
Yeah, if well, I'll unmute the applicant, and then if you wanted to address the hardship element.
Is it Lowry? Sorry, Mr. Lowry. Monica here. One of the conditions that we have to meet before granting this is to show that if we don't grant it, that it would create an unnecessary hardship. Can you speak to that a little bit?
And you're on mute right now, but I think through your phone you'll have to unmute. It looks like I can mute you, but I can't unmute you. So
There, am I better?
Yep.
Okay. It's the same as the other guy. My son-in-law has antique cars. He's a Mustang guy, and he's got quite a few cars, and he needs to store them. It's not that.
okay. Yeah, and Mr. Barra, I understand your question.
It's a hardship. Got too many
Well,
cars.
in the other application, I think the hardship was the noise. I mean, those are completely different circumstances. Thank you. I appreciate your comment.
Yeah. So I put the echo back on mute just for the echo reason, but I understand your comments, and I'm looking to meet that statutory condition as well. But here it's just such a unique application. I can see possibly minimizing it if the board wants to do that, but just since they've got so much land out there that doesn't look like it's ever going to be developed, I don't know that this is what the code had in mind when they're trying to prohibit the size of these buildings. And so for me, it fits the intent of the code. That's for me personally. And I'm not going to rely quite as heavily on a hardship in this application, just given it that it is so unique. I mean, normally we've got abutting properties and neighbors complain. We're worried about fire concerns on the neighbor's property. If this place catches on fire or something, we're worried about the neighbor's view on some beautiful property that they purchased. And I just don't see that any of those are present here. And so it kind of makes it a bit more unique for me personally. But I have been outvoted before, so the board might do that today to me, but those are just my comments. Board members, any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Was there anyone else on the line that was hoping to speak on this application other than the applicant? Okay, seeing none. Board members, questions, comments, or a motion?
I'll move approval.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it because again, it's out there by itself, so I don't see a problem with it. My only thing was I just don't see how it would even come to us.
Yeah, it's pretty far close to not coming to us, but I guess it's barely within Oklahoma City. So it comes for us. So we've got a motion and a second to approve the variance request in case number 14862 for the reason that it meets the statutory conditions for a variance. Once you're able to, cast your votes. And it's approved. Thank you. Okay, Cindy, you might be on mute, but we're ready for the next application.
Sorry, I was just going away. Case number 14856, item number 7 for a special exception of Camps Apartments for home sharing in the MB Neighborhood Business District at 1408 Northwest 25th Street. And I see the applicant on the line.
Okay, if the applicant wanted to introduce themselves and present the application.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Tana. I'm the property manager over these properties, and we've got 3 total. The one we're in question is we're looking to try to get approved for a 5-year permit. And if you see in this back area,
Really quickly, I've been admonished by the municipal councilor more than once for not getting name and address for the speakers. So if you could just give your address, and it can be for that business address, but just name and address.
okay, it's going to be 1408 Northwest 25th Street. My full name is going to be Tana Vegetarian.
Okay, thank you. And proceed.
And then, so basically the units in question are going to be over here on this west side of the back of the building, where you'll see, it looks like it says 2521, but that indeed is where the actual 1408 is going to be located at. And if you see right here in the back, there's going to be plenty of parking. We want to get these permits so, you know, we can use them for Airbnbs. They're close to the Paseo and Midtown. So, I mean, it's a really good location. It's literally right next to, I want to say it's a little, the restaurant area, bar area, right over here on the side, next to Klassen. Looks like it shows. But we've redone them. We've kept all the original woodwork, so it's kind of more of a historical Airbnb location. And they're equipped to be able to sleep up to 6 people.
Okay, and how long were you hoping to get?
We're hoping to get the 10 years.
Okay. And you said there's parking in the back for these units?
Yes, if you look in the area where it's, yeah, right here, where the 2 car, you see the 1409, 25, 17 building to the side. Behind that building, there's a whole parking lot.
Okay. How many units total are there?
There's going to be a total of, off the top of my head, about 24 units throughout the whole building. They have community hallways. Per community hallway, there's about 4 units per hallway.
Okay, so that whole complex has 24 units, you're thinking?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, board members, this one, I kind of thought maybe 2 of these I can see, but 3 is starting to kind of stretch it for me personally. But that was my kind of initial thought on this application. Board members, any questions or comments of the applicant?
Yeah, quick question. Because in the application, it said that there were approximately 20 private parking spaces. And you said how many units are there and how many people can stay in each unit?
The units vary. So we have 4 2-bed units in this specific building, and then the remaining are going to be 1 beds and then 1 beds with an office. So they're about 100 to 150 square feet difference in the 1 beds. And then there's also parking directly in front of the units. So there's, if you look in the front where it's got the U, the tops of the U, it's going to be right here by 25th. Both the top floor and the bottom floor usually park right out front there because it's easier access to their unit. So they don't park in the back. The back parking lot's solely for the back units.
So if all of them are leased or rented at the same time, would you have additional parking space available where they don't have to park on the street or in another location?
Yes, ma'am. So there's actually an extra dip back here that isn't shown in this photo, where it's equipped for 4 extra parking spaces, not including the ones out front. So
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Kind of consistent with this questioning, but does each of the units have dedicated parking spaces, or is it just a lot that everyone kind of shares?
It's a lot that everyone shares. We're actually getting ready to add additional parking at the literally immediately to the back of the building, because with how big the parking area is, it's actually equipped to be able to have 2 parking spaces in between the doors and still have, and we're looking to put up the yellow pillars to basically block the spots off for the walking area from doors to parking lot. And we're looking at another 4 additional parking spots right there that are off street.
Okay.
I'm curious, and maybe an application like this has come up before that I don't remember, but when an owner is applying for this, are the other current tenants notified, or are they not because they're not owners of their property?
My understanding is that it goes to the address regardless of who's in possession of it, but if city staff wants to clarify.
Our tenants are usually aware that we're doing Airbnb when we do Airbnbs.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's not, you don't have to answer that.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We're kind of talking about the sausage making behind the scenes.
Okay.
And so if city staff wants to answer, but just on exactly who notice is sent to.
Well, we noticed everyone within a 300-foot radius that was registered at the county as a property owner. We sent out 28.
Okay, so that answers your question, Mr. Ybarra. Then the tenants might not have gotten notice. It would have gone to the property owner. So that's a good question.
Okay. And I'm a little curious because I've never, since I've been on the board, I've never heard of one where it was this many at one time that we discussed. So this is kind of different for me. I don't know how to handle this one. I'll just be honest, I don't, because that's a lot at one time.
Yeah, I understand. We have had one that comes to mind that's similar. I'm not sure if you were here for that one or on the board or present for that one, but whenever home sharing first kind of started and we were first looking at these, someone came and tried to get a special exception for, I think it was 4 out of 4 units in one complex. And I think we gave them 2. I think we said, even 2 is a lot, but we'll give you 2 and we're going to deny the other applications. And that's kind of where I am on this one. It seemed to me like we might grant 2 here. And 3 was a stretch, although the board is free to think otherwise. But 3 to me was kind of a stretch in one complex. It would be to me like 3 on the same street. I would start to raise a lot of eyebrows having 3 on the same street. We need some scrutiny on that. But I'm comfortable with 2 here, especially 2 out of 24. I think it was. I'm comfortable with that. But 3 starts to get me much more uncomfortable. So I don't know that I would support 3, if that's helpful at all.
What's the number one changes from just a rental to a hotel operation?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially in this area. I mean, it's fine if they want to. I mean, you got the Bradford that's not too far away, and it's fine if they want to put all, temporary use or overnight in less than 30 days, more like a hotel. That's fine. But I just don't think that's something for our board. I think that's something for planning commission and city council to decide, and not really us. And so 3 units gets us closer to that, to me. So just my thoughts. Board members, any other questions or comments?
I'll just comment that the thing that distinguishes this application from several others is the fact that the applicant is cherry picking certain units that other people, I don't know how long their leases are, that are living there, A, may not have even gotten notice that this is happening, and B, probably certainly didn't sign a lease thinking that there was going to be a semi-hotel operation running out of the same property. And so in my opinion, I don't think that I could support these, because I think the standards that we're considering in Chapter 59, the standards for special exception approval, I think that there's some issues with some of those, not just the vehicular traffic, but that it's not in harmony with the general purpose and intent, and those sort of things. And so for me, that's what distinguishes this application from others that we've seen. And so those are my comments.
Okay. I don't know if the rest of, or if the majority of the board members share those concerns or not, but those exact concerns or not. But one thing the applicant might do is reach out to the current tenants and see whether they oppose or not, in order to satisfy those concerns of Ms. Ybarra, and at least potentially get closer to getting your vote. So I'll just throw that out there as a something to think about. I've already, so the applicant, I think, is still with us, but well, Ms. Ybarra, would that satisfy any of your concerns?
Well, and what my concern is, as far as for the applicant, I don't know that, that they are required to do that. It's just me personally, I can't get on board with these applications for those reasons. And so, I'm not going to tell you to go notify all of the tenants, because I'm not sure I have the authority to do that. But for me personally, to get my vote, I think that if, they were notified and had the opportunity to, be here, yes, I think that may help. But I still have concerns about just the traffic. You've got 24 units, you have 20 parking spaces according to your application. I know there's plans for further parking. But without assigned parking, again, I mean, you're talking about potentially moving these folks onto the street, which generally in most neighborhoods, when we see these applications, is most of the people in the neighborhoods oppose that. So that I just think there's a lot of reasons, and so I don't, Mr. Chairman, want to go to the extreme of telling her to notify people, but those are just my, those are my comments.
Yeah, I understand those, and I think they're valid. I'll just note that when this passed city council, in number 6 here, so the Board of Adjustment shall ensure that all reasonable precautions are taken to protect nearby existing anticipated development from hazardous and obnoxious conditions, and can impose specific conditions regarding location, design, operation to ensure safety and to prevent a nuisance. That, to me, gives us a lot of discretion to do a lot of the things that you're talking about, and to at least satisfy you on a lot of things that you've talked about. I agree that the applicant's not required to give notice to all of the current tenants. And I don't know that we would purport to force the applicant to do that, but it would be more of a voluntary thing that the applicant would do in order to appease some of the concerns of the board members. And so that's kind of the realm I was talking about. And then also,
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to say, as a condition of getting this special exception, you need to designate 4 interior parking spaces that are to be used only for this home sharing operation. I think that we have discretion to do that, given to us by city council, under these different things that we're allowed to do. So to protect.
Yeah, and those are the type of things, just for the applicant's purpose, that for me, why I think I would be more comfortable if the other people knew about it, because again, you're already talking about probably short amount of parking space, shortage on parking space already for the current tenants. And then if you take this just as an example, if you were to take 4 of these and say, hey, these are dedicated parking for the short-term renters, if I'm a long-term renter, I have a problem with that on this, for as a whole, that I'm living here day to day, and I don't have a assigned parking space. So I think the chairman is correct, and those, to me, those seem like reasonable precautions to take, to ensure that we're doing what we need to do to protect the existing development that's already there.
Okay. And this is why I think it's important to have boards in general with different points of view, because for me personally, if I were living in this area, I'm not sure that I would really care that much about some of this being used for home sharing, a unit or 2 being used for home sharing, as long as they weren't obnoxious or anything. And even if they were, they would only be there for a few nights. And so I don't know that especially if I were a younger person living here, I'm not sure that I would care too much about that. Or if it were demonstrated to me that the owners could take care of a parking situation so that dedicating some spots to home sharing wouldn't adversely affect me, I don't know that that would be much of a concern for me either. And so, but your point of view is just as valid as mine. So that's why we have a board. We have different points of view. So I like those thoughts. I think for me, it's probably advisable for the applicant to come back to us after they revise these applications and taken some of the board's comments into consideration, and maybe amend the application to address some of these issues, like if they're able to have dedicated parking spaces, or that they've notified the tenants, just different things that they can take, different measures that they can take to satisfy some of the concerns that the board has raised today. That to me seems like probably the best move for the applicant. But before we turn to the applicant, board members, any other comments that you have or thoughts?
I kind of thought, how will we know, which unit is Airbnb and which is not? Is it going to be apartment number on the application, or what?
That's a good question. I kind of assumed that it would be by apartment number, but I don't see that on the application. I don't think so.
They have different addresses.
Okay, that's what it was.
Okay, so all right, so they're each a specific address.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. There's 1408 and there's 1406 and a half, and so yeah, they're all different addresses, so we'll know exactly which one it is. Board members, any other comments or thoughts?
Yeah, how many are currently occupied?
That was going to be one of my questions to the applicant. So,
How many current units are occupied?
Yes, ma'am.
I can give you that answer. Give me 1 second. Give me the total number. Nine, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 14 units.
14, so you have 10 that's vacant?
Yeah. Yes.
okay. So if the applicant wanted to address some of the concerns that were raised at this time, You're recognized to speak.
Yes, so as far as the designated 4 parking spots, we can definitely make that happen. And as far as notifying the tenants, there's only one tenant that'll be in that community hallway, and I am more than glad to send them a notice notifying them that we are indeed doing Airbnbs. I don't see them having an issue with it.
Quick
Okay.
question. If you only have one tenant in that community hallway, the units that you're planning on renting out as Airbnb, they will be located in that same area?
Yes. So the 2 are going to be on the 2nd floor. There'll only be 1 on the 1st floor, adjacent from that tenant.
And the parking spaces that you have, are they closer to that area as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They are right outside the door.
So just for the applicant's purpose, on the notice issue, normally any property owner within 300 feet of the subject property gets notice of the application and has an opportunity to voice their support or opposition or comments or whatever they want. And so I think that's what some of the board members were discussing here, is that I think really probably anyone within this complex would probably otherwise get notice if they were owners. And some of the board members had issues with, just because of the fact that they're renters, they might not have gotten notice when we might want to see what their views are. All of that to say, even moving this beyond just that shared hallway, it might be worthwhile to give notice to everyone and see what kind of feedback we get from, what kind of feedback you get from the other 13 tenants, not just the ones that use that shared hallway.
Okay, I actually have one of the owners here with me. Is it okay if I allow them to speak?
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. My name is Scott. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad, Scott. Just for the purposes of the record, could you just identify yourself by full name and address, please?
Sure. Scott Henderson.
Okay, and then address, and it can be your business address or your home address.
Yeah, that's fine. 1111 North Lee Avenue, Suite 218,
Okay.
Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73103.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we run several other Airbnbs. And when I say Airbnbs, they're home sharing. We also have bed and breakfasts in Midtown. We always do things by the book. In fact, we have several units off of Northwest 16th in Midtown. That's not too far from here. Same kind of setup, common hallway, and we've done multiple in the same building. So from a percentage wise, the ones that we are requesting, these 3, in regards to a percentage of like in kind that's in nearby common hallways, it's actually less than what we've been approved for in the past.
Yeah, I think some of those might have been, I recall seeing some of these complexes that will get a special section for home sharing with 1 or 2 of the units. But if you're saying you've got a lot more than that, they may have been grandfathered in such that you only need a permit from the city and not a special exception.
They were not. I was before you guys within 6 months after the ordinance got passed.
Okay. Okay.
And we had great feedback from the council. It was overwhelmingly in support. Nobody had opposed it. And to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, but the letters for the 300 feet go out to the owners, not the tenants.
Yeah, that's correct.
So any owners, I had walked in and I thought I heard something else about tenants, but it's the owners who have the ability to come and share their thoughts.
Yeah, and maybe it was a discussion that was had before you were in the room, but one of the board members was just concerned that it only went to the owners and not the tenants. And the tenants in this case are going to be the ones that are directly affected on a day-to-day basis with any change in use like this. And so getting the perspective of the current tenants would be helpful, at least to get that vote from that one board member. So that's kind of the context behind that discussion.
Sure, and that makes total sense. So here, the idea is 3 out of 20. There's one tenant. Eventually, that one tenant, we're not going to renew once that lease is up, where you have one section that's close to the university that is in need and in demand of a living product like this. We are a management company and fully licensed brokerage at our office here. And so, you know, we're not slumlords. We do care about the public, and we do have plenty of parking spaces for them. And it's a secure building as well.
Good. Board members, any questions or comments for the owner? Okay, thank you. Okay, board members, any questions or comments in general? And is the board thinking about a continuance, or do we think that we can impose some conditions today that would get this approved, or is the board looking to deny, or kind of where is everyone right now?
I'm fine with it.
I'm good with it as long as we have the parking available. We do 2 units maybe, and for a period of 1 year, just to see how it works out.
That's kind of exactly where I was. It'd be helpful to get the view of the other tenants, but I think with these other conditions and it being a year, I can get on board with 2 of the units if there's dedicated parking. But.
Yeah, and I'll just end on my comments from earlier. I can't support the application even with those particular conditions. But like you say, Mr. Chairman, I'm just one board member. So
I appreciate you.
Okay, and then I think it probably would turn, well, I'll just kind of be straightforward with the applicant. It looks like you'd have support for probably 2 of the applications, but not 3. And so just as kind of a courtesy to the applicant, I don't know if they would want to pick which 2 would be favorable. I think that's the most generous thing that we could try right now, is just to pick which 2 out of the 3 applications are most favorable to you. And then we can take a vote on the other one to deny it, or you can withdraw it or continue it, or whatever you want to do. But back to the applicant, are there 2 applications that are more favorable than the others?
We're discussing.
Okay.
Now, historically with us, on some of our other properties that are like in kind, we have been granted in excess of 1 year. And so our view is that if you're making us do it for 1 year, we have not had the police called out on any of our properties that have home sharing licenses. And the ordinance says, it does say up to 10 years. I would like to shoot for 5 years, which is what we have at some of our other places.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. And for me personally, in certain areas of the city, as you're aware, I'm sure, they get more scrutiny than others. And we grant these for shorter time lengths than others. And also, you know, getting a special exception early on, because there weren't as many of these, they didn't get quite as much scrutiny. But as the city starts to get more and more saturated with these, I think you should expect to get more, much more scrutiny from us on these applications. And as these, again, get closer and closer together, and through no fault of you, but you know, if you've got a couple in a particular area, and then someone else gets a couple in an area, and then someone else gets one more, we're going to start to get more and more strict on these, so that they don't start to overtake. And so that's why you might be seeing a little bit more pushback here than you have in the past. So given that, the board can do whatever it wants as far as the time length, but for me, I'm more comfortable with 2 of these for 1 year. If a board member wants to propose a longer period of time, they certainly can and can vote on that. But those are my thoughts on that. Board members, any other thoughts or questions?
Is
Okay.
there a board member that would propose longer than 1 year, 10-year?
Probably, but I don't think you'll get it passed.
Can we do 3 for 1 year?
3 for 1 year? What is that?
3 units.
3 units for 1 year. I mean, there's really no difference between 2 and 3. I mean, it's one hallway that has 4 units, and there's 5 of those, 4 of which are a completely different structure. We've had 0 complaints with, tenants in our other buildings. No police reports filed. Notice has been sent out.
So all 3 of these units are in the same hallway?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a U shape.
Mhm.
And in that U shape, it's broken up into 4 different quadrants. And inside each hallway, which I'm considering a quadrant, has 2 doors up and 2 doors down. So the doors are actually across from one another. None of the doors are side by side. So you don't really have a neighbor. You just have one person above you.
So I'm gonna have to confess, I don't have a problem with 3 units for 1 year since they're all right there together.
We view that as actually being more beneficial for all parties on site.
Yeah, I can see something like that because if you were not renting that 1 unit out, would you rent it out for long term or would it just remain vacant?
Oh, no, it would not remain vacant. So looking at our data in the last 3 years between whether it's our bed and breakfast where it's actually zoned a hotel and those where we come before the board and have home sharing licenses, I would say about 40% of our guests are longer than 30 days, not considered short-term stays.
Okay, and please forgive me because earlier it was stated that you had 10 that are vacant. So what's going on with those? If you answer real quickly that no, it would not remain vacant.
Yeah, let me just ask her. I'm not for sure. What'd you say, Tana? No, what'd you say about 10 units?
So when I went over here,
Yeah.
right here, I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, those aren't
6,
vacant.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Oh, you were counting the number of units.
14. Yeah, I counted.
Oh, okay. I think
I added Douglas.
we have dual monitors up. So we have 20 properties there total. And we only have 1 vacant at the time. So we purchased it on 12/31 of 20, and it came with 1 vacant. And we've been stabilizing the asset since. We only have about 3 months left to stabilize the asset. And when I say stabilize, I'm referencing turning the tenants over into a different bracket, monetary wise. There's a difference between a $600 tenant, which is what we had a lot of, and an $800 tenant. It's just a different, income bracket. And so we do not have 10 units vacant. I'm looking at our reports on our back end in Rentec Direct. We just have 1 vacant at the moment.
So how can you ask for 3 home sharing if you only have 1 vacancy?
Because
I'm
we have.
confused. I'm so
No,
sorry.
I see the confusion. Yeah, no, that's a great question. We have 2 that are. One of those 2 is coming up in June, and the other lease is coming up in July. So we're just being proactive in what we're doing in our stabilization period. We'd like to have the license, and you are correct, Kitty. We are not going to be doing home sharing as there's a tenant in there. As they vacate with our 30-day notice to legal vacate letter, once it's vacant, then we were going to proceed in the home sharing.
So after hearing what you just said, I'm going to have to retract what I just said about I can go for 3 because it doesn't sound like you have 3 that are available at this moment. So therefore, I'm going to have to retract.
Yeah, they can proactively get these and have them ready to go once a tenant does not renew a lease, a longer term tenant does not renew the lease. So I don't know that I have a problem with that. The fact that they can't act upon this immediately, that's not necessarily a problem with me. The problem I have with that, and it's consistent with kind of the problem I've had this whole time that city council kicked this to us, is to me, it's like almost like a mini hotel mixed in the middle of this complex. And more fundamentally, we're kicking out long-term tenants to put in home sharing, which is to me almost exactly the opposite of what city council wanted us to do. So given all of these stretches, I'm still only comfortable with doing 2 of these and not 3 for a period of 1 year. The board can outvote me or propose something else, but that's currently where I am. And that I think is being generous for me, because I'm not even that comfortable doing 2 of these. But
yeah, and Sam, I appreciate your concern. I would like to say we are not kicking people out and placing home sharing. If we're gonna say that, then then we're just the bad landlords who are licensed and trying to have a quality product, and we're kicking everybody out because it's stabilization, and we're increasing the tax basis for the county as well, putting money into the property.
yeah, no, I understand. It's our purview is relatively limited, and powers are relatively limited. And you've probably heard me preach on this before, but the ability to even have home sharing in Oklahoma City barely passed in the first place. And given that, I think the city council wanted us to scrutinize these pretty highly, and this is a good case for that for me. So I think we've probably kind of said all we needed to say, board members. So probably time for other final comments and a motion.
So this is Kitty. I move that we approve 1 year for 2 units for case number 14856 for the with identified parking for the reasons that it meets the conditions for a variance.
Okay, and would this be 1 parking space per unit?
Yes, 1 per unit.
Okay, that's designated. Okay, and only 1 application is before us. So we've got a motion on the first application, which is at 1408 Northwest 25th. I will open it up to the applicant, kind of as a courtesy, if you wanted to pick 2 in particular, just so that the board can be working with that universe. So 2 addresses, or which would be 2 of the applications. If 1408 is one of those, then we can go ahead and vote on that. If it's not one of those, then maybe we can move on to another application. But I'll open it up to the applicant to address that issue only.
Kitty, did I hear you say 1 year?
Yes, Mike.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. You were asking which 2?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
1408 and a half and 1408.
Okay. So that'll include this case number, item number 7. And so we'll go ahead and vote on that one really quickly. Mr. Privet looks like he seconded its motion. Is that correct, Mr. Privet? Okay. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to approve the special exception in case number 14856 for a period of 1 year for the reason that it meets the statutory conditions for a variance, on the condition that there'll be at least 1 parking space designated for this home sharing use. Cast your vote, please. And it's approved. Now we'll move to.
We have item number 8, case number 14857, special exception of Camps Apartments for home sharing at 1408 and a half Northwest 25th Street.
Okay, and just again, for the purposes of the record, if the applicant can introduce themselves by name and address, and then I don't know that we need very much of a discussion because we've already discussed it with the last one, but at least an introduction just for the purposes of the record.
It'll be Tana Vega Duran, 1408 and a half Northwest 25th Street.
Okay. Board members, did you need any other discussion on this application?
I'm good on this one with what we did on the first one.
Okay.
So
is there anyone on the line that was hoping to speak on this application other than the applicant? I don't see anyone else in the group, but we'll do the opportunity. Okay, seeing none, we have a motion or questions or comments?
I'll move. Go ahead.
No, Mike, I was just gonna say, didn't you move that just a minute ago?
Well, yeah, incorporating your conditions, 1 year and a parking spot, just like you did on the other one. That's my motion.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the special exception in case number 14857 for the reason that it meets statutory conditions for a special exception for a period of 1 year on the condition that the applicant will provide a dedicated parking space for this location. Once you're able to, cast your votes.
Oh, poo. Sorry.
And it's approved.
Item number 9, case number 14858, application for a special exception of Camps Apartments for home sharing at 1406 and a half Northwest 25th Street.
Okay, and for the last time, if the applicant wants to introduce themselves, I think I put you on mute because there was some music in the background, but.
Nope, it's gonna be Tana Vega Duran, apartment 1406 and a half Northwest 25th Street.
Okay. And board members, let's see, we might as well take the temperature of the board right now, but it seemed like we've got a 1 definite no vote and my no vote, so that's 2. Any other board members have questions or comments? If there's a majority that votes in favor of it, we can have a motion to approve, and if not, we can see if the applicant wants to withdraw or if they just want us to take a vote on it. So basically, are there 3 that would support the application?
1.
What, didn't we just vote for just 2 with the previous?
Now we have to vote individually per
Oh,
application. And so now that we voted for 2, that leaves us with this 3rd one and what we want to do with that. The applicant chose the other 2 as the preferred ones. And if there's now 3 members, then this one can still get approved. I don't think that there are, but Ms. Asbury, I think you are going to be against this application. Is that accurate? Okay.
it is.
Okay, so that's 3 against. And Ms. McDevitt, just to put you on the spot, is there any preference here between withdrawing or go ahead and voting on this? I mean, I guess they could appeal with the denial.
Can we withdraw this application for now?
Okay. Yeah, and then reassess at a later date.
I agree.
Or a continuance.
Okay.
Yeah, we should do a continue.
Continue indefinitely.
We have to have a certain date, so it can be for 6 months or another period of time. But
give us 1 year.
In a year till they have to come back and get the other ones. Makes sense to me.
Yep.
Reapply for the other one.
Yeah, that makes sense, and then you don't have to pay for the application fee. So depends on if the board would approve something like that. And then city staff, is there a problem logistically behind the scenes with continuing for a year?
Yeah,
No, it's just an application we would have to keep up with for a year. We can do it. Mhm.
Okay. And then the applicant, I think they were okay with that, but is there any reason we can't do that or we shouldn't do that from your perspective?
We're good.
Okay. So do we have a motion? Again, I I guess for the purposes of the record, I'll open this up. If anyone else wanted to speak on this application that's on the line, other than the applicant, now would be the time. Seeing none, do we have a motion and a second to continue this for a year?
I'll move. Go ahead, I'll second it.
All right. I was going to try to look at what date that would be, May 2022.
We probably haven't even voted on the calendar that far out, so.
That's going to be on a Thursday, so, you know, pick to May 31st of 2022. Motion to approve or motion to continue application. I'm going to slip that in there to May 31st, 2022.
Not to be difficult, but I think the board usually meets on the first and third Thursdays of the month, so that's the last. I think that's probably the.
Yeah, I meant
Thursday.
Yeah. Continue by that date.
Yeah, can we approve or move to approve for a period of 1 year, whatever meeting date that 1 year would be? Was that valid?
No, I think as long as you could do like, I think it's May 19th.
I'm looking at the calendar and it is May 19th of 2022. That would be the third Thursday.
Yeah, the holdup is sometimes we skip weeks, and so there's a chance we won't have a meeting on that day. But
okay.
But if not, we could deal with it administratively, I guess, behind the scenes.
Okay, yeah, amend my motion to May 19th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to continue this application to May 19th, 2022. Once you are able to cast your votes. And it's approved.
Okay, item number 10 has been previously approved and item number 11 has been withdrawn.
Okay, takes us to additional items. I have none. Communications and board reports. I see none. Citizens to be heard. Is there anyone on the line that wanted to be heard on anything? Don't see anyone. But. Okay, I'll move to other business. So board members or city staff, any other business?
This is Cindy. I just wanted to remind everyone that our next meeting of June 3rd will be held in council chambers.
Okay. And
there's still mask requirements, Cindy? If we're back.
Our buildings still have a mask requirement.
Okay. Just wondering.
And as soon as any updates of changes, I will send you that email.
And are there any other protocols we need to be aware of? Is it going through that same door we have been going through? I think it's on the south side of the building.
Mm-hmm. They are putting together those protocols right now, so I will have those in place by our next agenda that goes out.
Okay, sounds good. Board members, any comments, questions? Okay. Seeing nothing else, we are adjourned.
Have a good one.